Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome, everybody, to the Hockey Think Tank podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Think Tank community. Place for all passionate hockey players, parents, and coaches to go to get a little bit of education and a little bit of inspiration regarding the greatest game on the planet. What an episode we have for you guys here today. We are bringing on David Franco, who was the mental performance leader for the Texas Rangers a couple years ago when they won the World Series. And he has worked with hockey players. He obviously has done a great job working with baseball players. He was a baseball player at the Division I level at Miami of Ohio University. And I got connected to him through Jason Eckerly. Awesome guy, athletic trainer for the hockey team when I was at Miami of Ohio. What a conversation we had with David. This is going to be one you're going to want to earmark and listen to a couple of different times, whether you're a coach, whether you are a player, or whether you are a parent. We have some updates on the Hockey Think Tank that we'll talk about in just a sec, but I do want to bring before that on the talent of the podcast, the one Jeffrey Dehu Lavecchio. First, Vex, you got some irons in the fire right now. Like you got some stuff going on, huh?
I got some big news, baby. I got some big news. I can't divulge it yet. It's a little bit of a kerfuffle, if you will. I heard that recently. However, don't just say kerfuffle and I'm chirping him. It was off air. Anyways, I wish you would have spit it out. Anyways, yeah, man, got some big stuff planned, dude. It's guys, I'll tell you what. Topher and I learned from our hockey career that success comes after the work. Everybody wants to be guaranteed success. That's not how life works. You got to put in the time. You have to put in the energy. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the intentionality for a very long time to be successful at anything. But the more you do that, the more opportunities will arise down the road in a month, in 6 months, in a year. I've had my training company. I've trained pro athletes for 16 years, everybody below pros for 13 or 14. And the opportunities that have been coming my way and the things that I'm going to be able to do and the amount of players that I'm going to be able to impact and help in St. Louis and the world beyond is actually really, really, really cool. So I got some really cool stuff. So keep following my gram out there at Jeff Lavecchio, hot guy, male model, blue check mark. And you'll be seeing what's coming down the pipe here pretty shortly, but it's some pretty exciting stuff.
GMBM worldwide. Eyed. We also have some things that we want to, I should say, tease a little bit.
Tease it out.
But something that we can't, what did you say, divulge? Something we can't divulge quite yet.
That's right.
But if you listen to our podcast, there's probably a pretty big chance that you at least know who the Rink Shrinks are. So the Rink Shrinks have a phenomenal hockey podcast that is pretty similar to what we do. They focus on youth hockey. They bring great guests on, and Brian Yandel and Mike Motto, two great hockey guys from out in the Boston area. And we're going to do a little collaboration with the Rink Shrinks. Little collaboration with the Rink Shrinks. And we are really, really excited about that. And you guys are going to hear a little bit more about that in the next couple weeks, but be on the lookout for that. And it is interesting what you said there. Like the success comes after the work, man, because I just got home literally this morning. We are recording on a Wednesday from my last trip travel-wise, working with youth organizations for this season that we have here. And I was in Utica, New York this week, and I was in Fargo, North Dakota last week. And man, like what an experience and what a ride it has been being able to work with all of these youth organizations with this youth organization blueprint that we do. And it's especially special when I get the opportunity to get out there and travel and be on the ground with them for a couple days and meet all the people, the parents, the players, the coaches. And man, like, I'm so grateful. I think at the end of the day, I'm so grateful for the amazing people that I've met and how much work they are doing in the youth hockey world to provide unbelievable experiences for their kids and for their families and for their coaches and potentially for the community models for their towns. And I'm just, like, I think the best thing is, like, I'm really, really grateful and really appreciate everybody that's supported what we do. And at the Hockey Think Tank, like, again, we're new as it relates to the stuff that we're doing and working with these youth organizations on the ground level. Like I said, we've learned so much, and just really, really appreciate everybody that I've been able to be involved with and learn from and get to know. Dude, there's so many good people in the hockey world. I know that I particularly have been shouting from the rooftops about a lot of the crazy, stupid stuff that's going on in our game. And the reality of the fact is, while there is a lot of crazy stuff that needs to get fixed, still 99% of the people in our game are awesome people, and we can't forget that. And so to you listeners, we love you. To everybody that we are fortunate enough to work with the blueprint that we do on the ground level, to everybody in our community that shares their experiences and things like that, like, we are so appreciative, and we're going to continue to keep skyrocketing this thing to the moon. And we continue to love doing this thing, man. And just so grateful. And I think you guys are going to be very grateful for this conversation that we just had with David Franco, dude. Like, wow. And when you talk about the community, so, like, buddy, that 10 questions that we did with him, particularly the last 2 questions, kills, right?
I mean, you guys need to join the community just to hear this story about his career playing baseball. It is legendary.
Yeah. And
one of the best stories I've heard on this podcast in 6 years.
Yeah. So, like, again, one of the things that we do for the community is we do an extra 10 questions with all of our guests. And one of the questions that we ask towards the end of that is, what's the biggest life lesson that you learned as an athlete that you can take with you in whatever you're doing today in your professional life, as a parent, whatever. And dude, like, his story, mind numbing. Like, incredible. And then he also won a World Series championship with the Texas Rangers a couple years ago. And we asked him about that. Dude, like, I'm talking chills, right?
I literally actually had goosebumps over here. Like, for real.
Yeah.
If you watch the video, I literally, when he's telling it, I looked down at my arm because I was goosing up, baby.
Goosing up.
I was goosing it up.
There we go. So yeah, you guys are going to love this one. Before we do get over to David, though, we do have some people to thank. First, want to thank our title sponsor, icehockeysystems.com. These guys are the absolute best, and it's the best place to go for all your coaching education needs. They got thousands of drills. They got whiteboard explanations of systems and structures and concept and all that kind of stuff that can make you a better hockey coach. Also, with their software, you have the ability to go in there and draw up your drills, print them out, send them to your players digitally, whatever you want to do before practice. You can also build these huge drill libraries for yourself, or if you get the associations platform as a club, you can get that for every coach in your organization and build up an organizational library with all your favorite drills, all your favorite practice plans. Unbelievably huge value add for all of the hockey coaches out there. So go to icehockeysystems.com today, check out the associations platform, and get it for your coaches today.
Want to say thank you to Train Heroic. You guys know Train Heroic is the amazing app that allows me to train thousands upon thousands of players every single year, both in season and out of season. And you're able to track every single workout. When you are training and you're trying to get stronger and more powerful, you have to track all of your numbers in the gym. This app does all of that for you. It is so clean. It's always with you, whether you're traveling, you're at home, you're at the gym. All of your numbers go everywhere with you. There's videos of me demonstrating and coaching everything exactly how I coach it with all of my elite athletes in person. I train teams, I train individuals, and I train entire organizations. If you have a question about what this looks like or pricing or anything like that, please just reach out to me, and my off-season training for 2025 will be dropping in the next few months. And it obviously every single year gets better, more dialed, more intense, and will get you in the best shape in your entire life. So thank you to Train Heroic.
Also, we want to thank Helios Hockey, one of the best hockey products out there on the market. This is a sensor that you put into your shoulder pad and gives you real-time data, real-time feedback on your play, particularly when it comes to your stride length and stride mechanics, and also something that they call a hustle score. Every time you move as an athlete out on the ice, it tracks your every movement, and it is awesome. The kids absolutely love it. Biggest game changer that it is, though, is it pairs with any type of video that you do. So whether it's live barn, whether it is an iPad, iPhone, old school video camera, it's going to pair with that, and you're going to get your shifts or your reps and your drills and practice cut up for you right when you get off the ice. Absolute game changer back in the day. No more rewind, pause, play, fast forward that we had to do when we were younger. Just an incredible value add. So go to helioshockey.com and use the coupon code ThinkTank, one word, and you will get 20% off your pro annual or pro 24-month subscription. Or you can go to helioshockey.com/teams and you can get this at a discount for your entire team. Lastly, I want to thank Crossbar. Crossbar is an unbelievable end-to-end software solution that can help you really streamline your operations as a youth hockey organization. What do they have, Jeffrey? They have an unbelievable website design. It's really clean, simple looking, and just really easy to use. They have registration for everything from the season to drop-ins and clinics and lessons, a club scheduler that helps you to schedule everything out, 5-star communication app to speak with your coaches and your family, financial tools and reporting, volunteer and facility management. Man, this is a one-stop shop to running your hockey organization. Everybody that I know that has switched over to Crossbar from some of the older software entities that have been out there for a long time have been very happy that they've done so. So go to crossbar.org today and check that out, particularly if you are a hockey director or a youth hockey president or just somebody on the board that has some sway into the decisions that are being made. And last but not least, want to thank you all, the listeners. We absolutely love you guys so incredibly much. This was a phenomenal conversation, and we want this to get out to the masses. It's going to be a huge positive value add to any kid that listens to this or any coach that listens to this at the end of the day. And if you want to help us to get this message out there, any way that you can interact with our podcast on your podcast apps, whether it's iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. We're everywhere. So by liking or commenting, downloading, shooting us a rating, shooting us a review, subscribing to our podcast channel, that goes a long way to making sure our message and the podcast gets broadcasted out to more and more people through that thing they like to call the algorithm. Jeffrey, do you know much about that algorithm, being the Instagram famous person that you are?
That's not a thing, but yeah, we need you guys. We come out here and we give away free info, and we bring on the best of the best of the best of the best that will help you all for free. All we ask is that you be a bro and you share the show in your Facebook groups, with your team chats, in your organization. We literally just are trying to make the hockey world a better place and help everyone level up that really wants to make it a more fun and better experience for all involved. All we ask is that you share the show, please. That's all we ask.
Absolutely. So with that, this was a phenomenal conversation. Mental performance coach, sports psychologist, World Series champion. Without further ado, great guy. Here we go with David Franco. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. We are so excited to have on this episode of the podcast He's down in one of my favorite cities in the world. Was just down there a couple weeks ago, Nashville, Tennessee. We got David Franco. David, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, fellas. Happy to be here.
Oh man, so pumped to have you and pick your brain about, mental psychology and mental toughness and, anything and everything in between, sports psych. And man, we can go a million different ways. But the first question that I have for you is, I feel like sports psych, mental performance, these kinds of things is relatively new, especially in the youth hockey world. It's an emerging business. It's an emerging kind of thing. I would imagine most teams at the professional levels have one or two people on staff now to work with their athletes. But what would you say to like the people out there that haven't been introduced maybe to the sports psych world, the mental performance world, that you're working with, you're dealing with on a consistent basis? Because it's huge. Like, the game is not just played physically, it's played between the ears more. What is it, Vex? Football's 80% mental and 40% physical. Little Giants.
That checks out.
Yeah. What would you say to some parents or some coaches out there that aren't as familiar with kind of the work that you do with athletes, on just giving them a little bit of a bridger into it?
Sure. So every athlete obviously has potential, right? He's athletic. He's had some form of success over the years, and it's very easy to see the physical skills that an athlete and a player has. But anyone that's played any sport, or especially the game of hockey, understands there's a huge mental component to allowing your physical ability to show up consistently on the ice. And I think as a sports psychologist, our job is to help players simplify their approach, simplify their plan, figure out what the best version of themselves looks like on the ice, and then help them get there more consistently. Because we all know that there's a million different traps and distractions and noise that can get in the way of us playing with full freedom, and our ability showing up when it matters most in the games. And a big part of what shows up consistently is our mindset and our mental approach to our hockey.
All right, Vex, which of the 90 ways can we go off of that answer? I love it so much.
I want to talk about what PJ Atherton said. What was that? 2 episodes ago? He said, and I watched the clip this morning. This guy that we had on, he works with a lot of high level guys, and part of it is mindset work. And he said, a lot of guys are playing 2 games inside their head, the game of hockey and then the game of, oh my God, what is coach thinking? Does coach hate me? What am I going is he going to be mad that I messed up? And I was like, wow, in junior hockey, that was me every day of my life. And so like what you do is so mass. I think it is one of the most important things that anyone can spend money on, is getting somebody that can help them through the mental stuff of hockey and honestly business, sports, and life.
Absolutely. So when you look at it from the player's perspective, there's usually 3 main buckets we can put these distractions, or what I call traps, into. So one, you're either super overwhelmed and caught up in what has happened in the past, whether it's the bad pass I just made, the bad game that I just had the day before. Something in my past is kind of like stirring up in me and keeping me distracted from actually being in the moment. Or we can be distracted about future, what might happen, right? If I continue to play bad this game, am I going to start the next game? Am I going to make it to the next level? Am I going to, like, all these things that are out of our control into the future? We start drifting our thoughts and our attention towards that. Or it can be just noise in the present, right? Like you mentioned it. What's coach thinking about me right now? What are my teammates going to say if I miss another, easy opportunity? What is going to, what am I going to think of myself if I end up, continuing to play poorly this game? And so regardless of what bucket you're falling into, like whatever trap you're falling into at the moment, the answer is always going to be, how can I get back into the present moment and play my game with full freedom, athleticism, and really let my ability take over? And it's a lot easier said than done. I think a good mental skills coach helps players kind of simplify their approach, simplify their plan, and give them kind of actionable items that they can do when they find themselves in those traps to kind of get back to being themselves. But simple isn't easy, or simple is better, but it's not easy. anyone that's played the game at a high level understands that just because you plug one gap or one trap and figure that out doesn't mean that's not going to come up in the future, or something else isn't going to trip you up in the next week. And so it's more of an ongoing process. Just like, you know, you don't go to the gym one time each year, get a huge pump in, and then you're good, right? The mental side is something that you have to continue to work at, continue to grow in. And as you develop as a hockey player, the mental side has to develop with you if you want to continue to, you know, reach your potential at the next level and continue on.
So true.
Dude, I think we're going to be doing activities and putting bunk beds together, and we just became best friends.
Yeah.
One of the things, Franco, that I've been talking about a lot is simple but not easy. I think there's this misnomer out there that to be great or elite at anything that you do, you know, you have to have this great grand plan and you have to hire the best people for blah, 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 blah. And like, it's this, you talked about overwhelming, like it's overwhelming for parents and it's overwhelming for kids based upon, you know, there's so much information out there and we feel like we need to be doing a million different things to help our kids to achieve their dreams at the end of the day. But so much of what you're talking about, you know, the first thing you said, simplifying the message, simplifying the plan for people, and eliminating the distractions. You know, it's almost like getting less instead of more is the way to go. So can you kind of talk a little bit about how you work with players about simplifying things? You talked about who you are, you know, identity, you know, going back to who they are as an athlete and as a person, but like, how do you work with athletes on simplifying in this world that promotes the opposite, I guess I would say? Sure.
So one, it's important to just understand that, you know, now our players nowadays have so many different voices coming at them, whether it's their personal trainers they're working with, their current coaches, their parents, other teammates, parents, girlfriend. There's a lot of input from a lot of different directions. And so there is a time in a practice setting where I need to overthink about certain things. I need to learn a new skill. I need to break it down and be very like conscious in my thought of how I'm going to do this, what I'm going to do. But there has to be a hard break between that thought process and our game time. Game time, when you step on the ice, your ability is your ability. You're not going to go get any new reps that are going to make a huge impact on your ability to perform that night. And so there has to be a transition from our practice environment, from our receiving information and learning environment, to how do I get into that? Some people call it the flow state, athletic attack mode, whatever we want to call it. How do I consistently get there? And there's a handful of ways to do that, but I think how we think and how we prepare in our pregame routine has a big impact with what we default to on the ice when it matters the most. And so if we are overthinking and over-concerned about all these different distractions and noise before the game, like our pregame routine should get us locked in and focused on the only things that are really important. And that's one, helping my team win, and then playing my game. So you know what your job is as a defender, as a forward, as a goalie, whatever the case may be. It's, can I just be in the moment, read the game as it comes to me, and just play, like let my ability take over when it matters most.
What do you think for all the kids out there? Yeah, it's so important. What would you say for the kids out there are things that get in the way of that? And you talked about, you know, being too much in the past and beating yourself about mistakes or potentially being in the future. Like, what are the biggest things that you're seeing with the athletes that you work with that are the things that get in the way of them being able to be present? And after you talk, like, I was somebody that really struggled with that as a player. I had the squirrel brain going all the time. And so I can share my experience certainly, but you know, you work with a lot of athletes at a lot of different levels. You've been with the most elite of the elite athletes winning World Series and stuff like that. What gets in the way of somebody being present in their performance?
Sure. So the beautiful thing about working with a lot of different athletes over the years, both professional and amateur, is you understand that everyone's a little bit different. I wish I had the magic button and the secret sauce and the cookie cutter, just do this and it's going to work for you. But the reality is each athlete has to figure out what that is for themselves. They have to be honest with themselves, build some sort of awareness of these are the specific traps that I worry about. But if you want to talk about across the board, some of those traps that I hear a lot, worrying about what other people think is a big one. You know, whether it's scouts in the stands, whether it's my first year on a new team and I want to prove myself to the coaching staff, I want to prove myself to my teammates. You know, I have a couple players I'm working with right now that happen to be the youngest player on their juniors team right now. And so there's a lot of unique challenges that go along with that, where you're trying to establish yourself at a new high level. You want to prove yourself, you want to prove that you belong. And those things in and of themselves can be beneficial, right? If that drives you to work harder, that motivates you to get extra reps, to maximize your practice time, play hard during the game, all that kind of stuff. But if that's what we're concerned about when we're on the ice, when it matters most, it's taking us away from playing our game and allowing our true ability to come out and play.
And the more that your brain is doing while you're playing, the slower you're going to play. You know, like for me, when I was like worried about all those things you just talked about, especially when I got older, like juniors and college, like in juniors, like, oh my God, like what scouts are in the stands tonight? Like I got to perform. And then at the same time, oh my God, coach hates my guts. Like, you know, I can't turn the puck over or else, you know, he's going to hear it nonstop. And oh my God, like this and that. And it's like, as soon as you can quiet your mind and just hone in and be where your feet are. What I find, because I help a lot of players with a lot of mindset stuff, just kind of through what I do in the gym and always asking guys, how can I help and things like that. It's like that mind racing. You need to quiet your mind and be present. They're either in the past, oh my God, like I messed up last night. We lost the game. It was my fault. I don't want to do that again, which then you're constantly bringing that, you're putting that out into the universe. Like attracts like, law of attraction. It's, you know, you're asking for it to happen again because that's what you're focusing on. Or you're living in the future. Who's watching tonight? Am I going to be able to get a scholarship? Am I going to score while my girl's in the stands so she wants to hang out tonight? You know, like whatever you have going on, if you can quiet all of that noise and you can be where your feet are and be present, you're going to play much, much better.
Absolutely. And I think you can kind of describe that in one of two buckets. Like when you are listening to the noise and you're overwhelmed and you're worried about all these things out of your control, the natural response for most athletes is to try harder. And so when we start trying harder, it gets a little clunky. We're not reading the flow of the game. We're overthinking things. Usually we start being a little more timid on the ice, those types of things. The answer and the goal that we're all going for is like, when you get on the ice, can you just trust yourself? Can you just have an extreme trust in your ability, to read the game, your ability to let the game tell you what you need to do in that moment? And that's the ultimate goal. Can we just get you out on the ice fully trusting your preparation, your ability, and stay in the moment, like you just said, Bex?
It's such a game changer. And for me, and I'm sure we're going to get to this, but I got to say it now. For me, the number one thing that helped me with this problem was visualization. Visualization every single day, you know, before practice, before games, you know, like just like seeing the situations I was going to be in, seeing myself executing them correctly, well, over and over and over and over. And like, then you find yourself in those situations and exactly what you're looking for. It's butter. It's just like bang, bang, like you're in that flow state. And it's not, like you said, clunky. And I feel like I'm working so hard and everything's going wrong. Visualization changed my life, man. Like even in business now, in my life after sports, visualizing what I want my gyms to look like, visualizing how I want my sessions to go, how I want the guys to feel when they leave and come in the gym every single day. Like, just it's like creating that routine, and then it just allows you to get there easier, quicker, sooner, and with less physical effort, I would say.
No, I absolutely love that. I'm completely with you. I think it's important for athletes and coaches to understand that on average, human beings, like 80% of our thoughts are negative. So before we even talk about being an athlete and performing in a space where you're constantly being evaluated and there's different pressures that come onto you in those situations, we're already in a deficit with our natural thought process. Like 80% is a high number. I think when you talk about athletes, it's probably higher than that. So the challenge becomes, can we be proactive in putting good stuff into our mind? Because if we just default to our regular normal, it's going to be a high percentage of negative. So that's where I love the visualization piece, the reflecting on good performances, the visualizing how you want to play in the game tomorrow night. If you've been to that arena already, great opportunity. You know what to expect. You know what the seats look like. You know what the ice looks like. You know the team you're going to face. You can put yourself in those situations, in that environment that you're going to be in, and it's just going to help you be that much more comfortable and trust your ability when you're there. Almost feeling like you've already been there before. So visualizations, huge, powerful thing, but even just how we talk to ourselves, how we encourage ourselves, how we handle difficult situations, all of that plays into exactly what you're saying, Vex.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Take the exit. Turn right into the drive-thru.
Nope, I'm making dinner tonight.
You don't have time. Josh has practice.
Oh, that's right. I'll just get a salad.
And fries?
No, just the salad.
But salad cancels fries.
Salad only.
Fries.
Salad.
Fries.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on the road to successful weight loss.
Hey, can I get the
fries?
Salad. Sorry.
Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
Yeah, I feel like when we were kind of growing up, it was almost like a badge of honor, almost like a showing of strength to be really hard on yourself, where like you would go back to the bench and you throw an F-bomb out. It like showed people that you care. Like I'm into it, I'm invested, like, I'm accountable maybe. And I used to think that way a lot. Like I was the same way. I come back, I was really hard on myself, and I always thought that was like a good thing. And then you get a little bit older and you maybe have some mental health problems, and that follows you, into adulthood. And then you're like, whoa, this is not serving me very well. And then you think back to your playing days and it's like, whoa, like this really didn't serve me well when I was a player, And so have you seen a shift? How old are you? You're probably around our age, or maybe a little bit around there.
I'm 42. Okay.
So right around where we're at.
So if you were about to say, or maybe a little bit older, weren't you?
I was, but he's good buddies with a guy that I know, Jason Eckerly, great man.
Good save. Good save.
So anyway, but like, have you seen that a lot? Like, and has that shifted maybe a little bit? Like, I really do feel like when we were growing up, it was like tough love to yourself, and grit, like if there was a problem, like grit your teeth and just get through it, work harder, like you said, rather than like figure out what the problem is and let's come up with a solution to it. Has there been a shift in the way that athletes think? Has there been a shift in maybe the vulnerability of athletes to kind of see that as maybe a little bit more of a deterrent to being the best version of yourself, being so hard on yourself rather than kind of like treating yourself maybe in a better way nowadays?
For sure. And I think it's a case-by-case basis, but, a lot of times when you have high-performing athletes, there's a lot of them that fall into the perfectionist category. They want everything to be perfect. They hold themselves to super high standards. And there's some great characteristics that come along with that. Just like I just said, they hold themselves to high standards. They're driven. They're never satisfied. They're always trying to get better. And that's a good thing, right? But it can also be detrimental to their development if they get consistently caught up with the failures, the ups and downs that naturally come throughout the course of a hockey season. And it can, those are the players I identify by. I said, hey, how was your game yesterday? It was great. I played really well. Awesome. Like what's the one thing that stood out the most? And they go straight to the negative. I'm like, you just told me you played a great game. And they want to talk about that one shot that they missed, or that one, pass that didn't make it. And you start talking about the 80% of negative thoughts, like our perfectionists in the sport usually way, way higher. And what I see that do for what that does for a lot of athletes is it takes the joy out of the game. They don't have as much fun as they should throughout the game. And they never sit back and allow themselves to celebrate the wins that come along the way. And I think, when I'm working with that type of player, I'm not trying to change their personality or change their entire, way that they view the world. But if we can shift that perspective a little bit, give them some tools to actually start enjoying the game more, having more fun when they play, and having some simple goals and wins that come along the way, I've seen some pretty cool changes in our players.
I love that, man. I love that. And I'm gonna kind of like take what you just said there when you talk about joy, right? You talk about joy for all the elite athletes that I've been around, whether they were teammates of mine, whether they were kids that I've coached that have gone on to do some pretty special things in this sport. The one consistency for all of them was they love hockey. Like if there was one thing that I had to say, these people had this, it was a consistency with all of them. It was they love to play the game. And one of the things that really, Vex and myself are railing on right now, particularly in youth sports and youth hockey, is so much that is being done at the youngest of ages, we feel like is sucking that out of the players, right? It's too professional, too fast. It's too serious, too quick. These kids are being treated like 19-year-olds when they're 10, as far as the way that they're being coached and the way that they're being parented about their athletics in whatever sport that it is that they have. Can you talk a little bit to that, particularly when you talk about the elite athletes that you have? Is that something that you see too, the major leaguers and the high level hockey players that you work with? Is there that consistency of having that joy for the game? There's always going to be one or two that are just that talented, it's a job to them and whatever, but for the most part, and then how that filters through and how you think about that from like a youth development perspective as well.
Sure. So I'll start, I'll get to the answer, but so if you get a bunch of cows that are out in the field and a storm comes, they naturally turn the opposite direction. They want to be comfortable, and the storm catches up to them because the storm's faster than the cows, and they end up being in the storm longer than they need to, right? However, God made bison, it's the exact opposite. Storm comes, bison turn into the storm. Oh, let's go, Vex. So,
got the bison up.
Rain, snow, sleet. They figured out they're going to get through that storm quicker by facing it head on. As an athlete that aspires to reach a high level in their sport, whatever it is, you cannot avoid storms. It is unavoidable. It is part of the journey that everyone wants to go from straight to the NHL, straight line, no road bumps, just everything easy. And that's just not the reality. So I love hearing, elite athletes talk about their journey, their past, because when you break it down, there are tons of storms that they had to get through to actually get to where they ended up. And so when we talk about the joy and loving the game, for me, those players embrace storms a lot easier and better than the other players, than the other bucket they were talking about. And so if you don't love the game, it's going to be a lot harder to be in uncomfortable situations that you need to get through to continue to get to that next level, get to that next step. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Toph, but if we create an environment, especially at the youth level, that's too structured, then we're going to lose the fun, the joy, and the creativity that adds a huge component to the development of our players. And if you lose that too early, you are holding that player back in a huge way from what they're capable of actually doing. So I have youth coaches that, pick my brain all the time. And those are the two things that I harp on. Are your players having fun? And are you giving them space to be creative on the ice, on the field, wherever?
This is where, like,
all right, we can end the podcast right now. Let's just I'm sure you're going to have more awesome nuggets for us, but like that, the way that you explain that, both from the Bison standpoint and then the creativity unstructured standpoint, those are things that Vex and I wholeheartedly believe in and try to communicate so much on our podcast and on social media as much as we can, because at the end of the day, like, youth sports is kind of backwards with those two things right now. to be honest, like the way that the development model is and how professional, like it goes anti to everything that you just talked about. And so Vex, I know you had something to say there, but like that was, I hope that people rewind this for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever that was, and listen to that again, because that was awesome.
Well, can I add one more thing to that, Vex, before we go?
Yeah.
I think just a little nugget to the coaches out there, because I think this is a really important point. As a coach, especially at the youth level, it is very easy for you to see what a player is doing incorrectly, right? But if every single time a player does something wrong, if we jump in to correct them and they're not getting through one single rep without us talking to them or telling them what they did wrong, you are keeping that player from developing the ability to make their own adjustments. And as bad as we want to win as coaches, we cannot be out on the ice with them when it matters the most. So if we're not preparing our players to recognize when they do something wrong themselves, and we're not teaching them that they have to make their own adjustments and read the game and read certain situations, we're just not preparing them for the arena, for the battle, for the war, whatever we want to call it on the ice. And so I think the best coaches I've been around understand that saying less is usually a better option for the players. Now, there's times if they can't figure it out themselves and they're making the same mistake over and over and over, then yeah, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's teach. Let's bring it to their attention. But then we throw them back, into the warrior arena and let them figure it out for themselves. But if we skip that step, which I feel a lot of coaches do, then we're really holding back our players.
Totally agree. It's so funny, especially with younger players,
Agreed.
In my company, like I train, the highest level guys, pro, college, junior guys. That's like my bread and butter. But whenever, I had coaches out sick last week and this week with funerals. So I'm working with the younger players that my company works with. And, last week, I'm laughing about this in my head because last week, I had I think I had some 10-year-olds in there doing push-ups, and maybe one 10-year-old out of 30 can do like a real good push-up. But part of it, like you said, is learning how to do it, self-organizing. Another part of it is like at that age, the thing that I care about the most is that the kids come and have fun training, because they're not getting to the NHL, juniors, college, the Olympics in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. The goal is that they want to come back. And we just start building layer over layer over layer. The more they come, the more reps they get, the more things we can work on. And I know this, and usually the parents or the coaches are out of the gym. But for this night, whatever reason, the coaches were watching, and I'm okay with that. But the coaches were trying to walk around the room and fix every kid's form. And I'm like, I want it like that. It's okay. They're 10. Now that kid is having less fun. Now he wants to come back less. And the less he does push-ups, he's not going to get better at them faster, And this is the 10-foot view versus the 10,000-foot view in people that don't really understand development, both from a physical and a psychological, emotional standpoint. Like, these things are very, very, very important. Both the fun aspect, because when it's fun, you're okay when you mess up because you want to go back and try it differently and things like that. And then also like the learning aspect, like you have to let them learn a little bit, because if you just try and, we used to call it like coach trying to have a remote control on the bench, yelling out every player what they need to do on the ice. And we'd be like, shut up, like, let us play the game. You're retired, like you're not out there. But this is also, and I've said this on the podcast a ton, whenever you're coaching a team or groups on the ice, off the ice, this is where like you're saying less is more. Instead of going around and fixing every kid doing it incorrectly or not how you're looking for it. I tell Toph this all the time on the podcast. This is where I found a lot of success. I see one kid who's doing it really well, better than everybody else. I'm like, boys, hold on. Come over here and look at Johnny's push-ups. That is everybody give Johnny a hand. Now, what is he doing well? And I ask them, what is he doing? What are you seeing? Not do it this way. Do it this way. That's wrong. And then everybody wants to be like Johnny because Johnny had the whole team clapping for him. And now, coach, look at me, Oh, good job, Sammy. Dave, better, you know what I mean? And so it's all in the message and how you wrap it up and kind of like 10,000-foot viewing this, where you will start to see the kids, A, have more fun, and B, start to like figure it out on their own and want to figure it out on their own. At least in my experience, that's what I've found with younger players.
Absolutely. I think, if coaches spent more time focusing on building a good environment for their players and less time worrying about the players being the perfect player and doing every single thing right every single time, I think we would see our development improve a lot.
So what does that look like? Like if we have a lot of coaches that listen to this podcast, and you're obviously steeped in hockey culture, having worked with hockey players, like, or it doesn't even have to be hockey specific, just in general. Like you talk about creating an environment. What does that environment look like to you?
So first, it's an environment where players are comfortable making mistakes. If our goal is to not make any mistakes, one, we're not going to push them hard enough, and two, those players are going to get very passive in how they play. They're going to play safe. They're not going to try new skills. And that's going to hinder their development. So one, understanding and explaining to your team that, hey, guys, like, especially in the practice environment, we're going to push you. We're going to try new things. We're going to encourage you to make mistakes because that's how we grow. So if players are too concerned with like being perfect and not making any mistakes, they're not going to try things. They're not going to improve at the same rates that they could improve. So that's one. Two, it's finding ways where your players have fun in that practice environment. I get it. There are times where we have to do certain drills or we have to do certain things that, ABCs that our team needs to work on. That's fine. But then throughout that, or at least like at one point in practice, what can we do that the kids have a blast in? They can just compete with each other and just find ways to create different games, different, whatever you can do that be creative or where guys are having fun. And then the other thing is creating competition within practice. I think that's a big one as well. So find ways to get the guys going, whether it's one-on-ones, whether it's, whether you want to do shootout to end every, end every practice, or be creative, find different ways that you can get guys, laughing, competing. That's where you're going to get the most out of your players, when you can consistently create those types of environments.
100%. I love that. And they all kind of go hand in hand, right? Like when you do more competition type stuff, there's going to be more interactions between players, which means there's going to be a lot more mistakes. And when you compete against each other, typically there's a score at the end of it. Like that's going to be a lot more fun for the kids at the end of the day. And so, yeah, I think it's great. And I think I want to add on to what you're saying here, because what you talked about a lot was in practice, but what about during the games?
You talking about practice?
We talking about practice, man.
Practice?
That's something I die for. Or games, whatever. AI. But like where we see a lot of issues when it comes to youth hockey, like if you go to, youth hockey games and watch a little bit, you say you want to create this environment where mistakes are okay and the kids are having fun and stuff, and coaches promote that environment in practice, but then you get to a game and they're a completely different person. Now the pressure's on a little bit because the parents want you to win, or whatever. Usually it's because the parents want you to win. And for all the parents out there, understand that coaches feel that pressure, like almost all of them in youth hockey. So freaking relax. Anyway, but like I've seen a lot of coaches who do exactly what you were talking about in practice, but then it gets to the game and all of a sudden somebody makes a mistake and they're jumping all over them, or, it becomes a lot more negative as opposed to like finding things that somebody's doing right and reinforcing those types of stuff. Is that something that you see as well? Is that something that kids or athletes talk to you about, where it's like, hey, like the training's good, but like then I get to this game and my coach is all over me. I can't focus, I can't be myself and play my game.
For sure. I also plenty of situations where parents being all over them at the rink, adds the same unhealthy pressure to their performance and takes them, again, puts them in that try harder mode and gets them away from that trust mode that we're going for. I think it's important for coaches to understand that whether you like it or not, the team is going to reflect your personality, and in games reflect how you handle certain situations. If the team feels like you're panicked, most of the time your players are going to feel panicked on the ice. If your team's picking up that they can't make a mistake without getting blown up by you on the bench or during the game, then they're going to play more passive. They're not going to look for opportunities to take chances and take certain risks. They're gonna just try to play it safe and try to play to not make mistakes instead of playing to make plays and ultimately have a positive impact on the game. So I do think that one, coach's body language on the ice. If you make a bad pass and you look over and your coach is like over there, going nuts, like probably going to impact your confidence the rest of the way. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't coach, you just sit back and don't do anything. But that's where it's really important to know your players, know the personalities, know which guys I can get on a little harder, which guys need a little pat on the back and be like, yo, you got to clean this up. But you're going back out on the next shift. Like, you got this, let's go. And that's the beautiful part about coaching, is understanding your players, what they need in certain situations. But the coaches that make it about themselves usually are going to have a negative impact on at least a handful of the players on their team.
Yeah, it's almost like the coach's ego kind of gets in the way, where like your play is reflecting my coaching, and I want people to think that I'm a good coach. Do you feel like there's a lot of coaches? There's probably coaches I know there are coaches even at the highest of levels, in the NHL and probably Major League Baseball that feel that way too. Is that something you see a little bit in youth sports too?
Sure. And I get it. We all want to win. We all want to be successful. But I think it goes back to what is your goal as a coach? Like, if you're in the NHL, you need to win. Your job is on the line. You need to win. It's going to look a little bit different than if you're coaching youth hockey with a 10-year-old team, right? So understanding as a coach, like, what is my main goal right now? Is it a win at all cost situation? Is that what justifies like my my thought process and my goals this season? Or is this a develop at all cost, where I might not have my best guys on the ice at the end of the game when the game's on the line, but I need these guys to develop. I need to see how they react to these big situations. They need to get these reps. And I think a big part of it comes down to how well you communicate that to your parents, because I think most coaches talk a lot about the pressure, stress, headaches that parents cause for them. But if you can be upfront with them with how you're going to operate throughout the year, what your priorities are, and what it's going to look like, it makes it a little bit easier when you follow through on that throughout the season if they're not as happy with it as you'd like them to be. Easier said than done. I get it. We all hear the horror stories. I know there's a lot out there, but if you can be consistent with your messaging and then have your actions back that up, you're going to put yourself in the best situation possible.
You're making us sound very smart right now. I'm not going to lie to you, because everybody listening is like, wow, weird. Jeff and Topher constantly talking about these things. And, if you're in the NHL, goal is to win. You're in college hockey, main goal is to win. 90% win, 10% develop. Maybe we could talk about those numbers a little bit arbitrarily. You kind of have
Oh, Nar wouldn't be happy with you right now.
You kind of have to do both. Yeah, but if Nar doesn't win, Nar doesn't have a job. So, I mean, you do got to win at University of Michigan. So, but if you're below U18 and even in U18, it's always, in my mind, it is literally always developed first. It is always developed first. And kids are playing too many games. And, Toph and I are always talking about, like, if the goal is at the youth levels development, playing too many games becomes an over-professionalization thing. And then people are crazy about winning. And then you throw in rankings and you throw in all this pressure and you hinder development. Not that pressure isn't good, right? But in the certain circumstances, if the goal is to develop, I do not understand why we don't play less games, which saves the parents money. And then with that money, we hire somebody like you to come and speak to the group once a month, once every 2 months, something like that. The same thing with a nutritionist, like things that are going to help them every single day, not only for the rest of their hockey careers, however long they play, but also as a human being from a developmental standpoint. If you learn the strategies on how to handle stress, if you learn the strategies on what to do after a mistake, if you learn positive self-talk and how massively, profoundly that will change your life, you are going to be way better. And that's going to be way better than any 1, 2, or 3 weekends a year that you're spending extra playing games. To me, this is a no-brainer. We save parents money. Hockey's disgustingly expensive, makes me want to throw up out of my mouth and my butt at the same time. So we're saving parents money. Great visual. And we're giving these kids life skills with people who can help them in hockey and life every single day for the rest of their hockey career, which is going to wind up winning you as the club and the team more games. And we're saving everybody money. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, if you say you want to develop, actually think about what's going to help these players develop and stop just like stroking your own egos and playing more games and bragging about your rankings that don't mean anything.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most highly sought-after products on the market. It visibly shrinks under-eye bags and smooths out crow's feet in minutes, and the effects last up to 10 hours. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle Magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. In as little as 10 minutes, Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results. The best news, you can try Plexiderm for only $14.95. Plus, get free shipping. Don't wait. Order Plexiderm today. Visit plexiderm.com/special. That's plexiderm.com/special. Paid for by Sheer Science.
Franco, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but like too many people at the younger ages judge their coaches with the wrong judgment. Like for me, if you're going to judge your kid's coach, and you talk about it too, Vex, from 18 all the way down, like these are the two pieces of criteria that you should be judging your coach on. Number one is, did my kid fall in love with the game a little bit more from having this person as a coach? And two, did the team get a lot better from September until April when the season is over? Literally, those are the only two things. Maybe I missed something that I would love your thoughts here, but like We are so quick to judge these coaches by wins and losses. We are so quick to judge these coaches, even at the higher levels. Like, spoiler alert, guys, like maybe at like the lower level juniors, like tier 2, tier 3 junior hockey, that coach having a relationship with a certain junior team or whatever matters. But like, if you want to play like high level junior hockey or like get drafted in the end, like, that doesn't matter. Your kid has to be good. Like, nobody does any favors for people unless your owner is corrupt in the USHL, or in pro hockey. Like, it matters that your kid is good at hockey. And so we judge these coaches based upon their win-loss record. We judge these coaches based upon where their team is ranked in my hockey rankings, which is completely irrelevant to your kid becoming an elite hockey player at the end of the day. Completely irrelevant. What is very relevant, I should say, to your kid being an elite hockey player is how much do they love it and how much did they develop? That's it. And those are two things that your coach has a lot of control over at the end of the day. So I don't know what you think about that, or if there's something I missed or something you'd like to add. But for me, those are like, it's so ass backwards how people judge youth coaches nowadays. And we got to fix that, and we got to keep educating people on what actually matters.
Yeah, I'm with you on both of those. I think, as players continue to develop, play at higher levels, the talent tends to be about the same, right? You're going to have your outliers, your extremely talented guys that are going to stand out above them. But I'm not talking about the 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever that is. But when the talent is roughly even, what we're talking about today in this conversation, like your ability to understand how to sleep well, how to eat well, the mental side of the game, obviously a huge component of that. Like, all of these are factors that are absolutely separators the higher you go in the game. And so if you're not taking time to develop that, there are very few players that are going to develop that on their own, right? It happens, but it's going to be a slow burn. But if you can get your son, your team exposed to some of these ideas, some of these, mental skills that are, like Vex mentioned, like, are going to help you on the ice, but also going to help you in life, you are going to be way better prepared for the challenges, the storms, and everything that comes as we go. And so if that's completely neglected at the youth level from the coaching perspective, then that's going to be detrimental to your players' development.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Well, we've had you on here for a little bit. We've talked a lot about youth. We've talked a lot about elite, but you are somebody that has been a mental performance coach with some of the greatest athletes in the sport of baseball. Had the opportunity to work in the major leagues, won a World Series championship with the Texas Rangers. And so I'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about your experience working with the best of the best, these people that we're talking about at the end of the day. What are some things that you see that those athletes have from a mental performance, mental skills standpoint that you think would be good for kids that have aspirations to be those athletes at some point, would be good for them to start thinking about and start maybe doing some things and some exercises to help to develop those skills at the end of the day?
Sure. So I think it's important to understand that throughout, whether it's baseball, hockey, whatever, like, there are going to be ups and downs, but most youth players or players that have a hard time breaking in at the professional level, they ride that roller coaster, right? One day I'm really good, next day I'm really bad. And I look back on my season and I was like that. The best of the best players I've been around are able to perform consistently. There's still ups and downs, but their ups and downs are like this. So how do they do that? One, like, they're religious with their routines. They know themselves as a player so well. So I would challenge any hockey player that's out there listening to this. I would challenge you to write out, what are my non-negotiables before the game that I need to do to be ready to be mentally locked in and physically ready to perform at a high level. It might sound simple. This might be easy. This might be hard for you to do, but understand what those things are that prepare you to play at a high level consistently. That gets absolutely skipped over a ton, right? So I will say this, though, when it comes to routines and superstitions are two completely separate things. Routines work for you work for superstitions. So be very careful. There's a fine line there.
I like that. Yeah.
Now, the other thing to keep in mind is, I don't care how good your routines are, you have to have some flexibility in there. There's a lot of things outside of your control that are going to happen. I tell players all the time, you got to be like a palm tree sometimes. Big storm comes, you've seen the videos, palm trees have a lot of sway in them, right? It might be an away game, bus gets stuck in traffic. I have way less time to get ready for the game than I normally do. Okay, what are my non-negotiables that I still need to do to be ready to go? It's a home game. I have all day to prepare. Like my routine's probably going to look a little bit different, but I'm going to find a way to get in my non-negotiables so that I'm ready to go. So consistency is huge. And a lot of that comes from routines. Now, the other part that I just mentioned is really important is just understanding who you are as a player, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And I think the trap that a lot of players fall into is trying to do too much or trying to be something that they're not. The best players I've been around they know themselves so well. They know what they need to do to be prepared. And then they know how to go out and execute at a high level, regardless of the noise going on around them. I remember like with the Rangers, Nathan Eovaldi is one of our stud starting pitchers. He's had a lot of success in the playoffs, pitching in huge games throughout his career. And as we were going into the playoffs, the year we won the World Series in 2023, I asked him, I said, Evo, what is the key to having success in the postseason? I hear some players talking about, it's just like any other game. Nothing's any different. Some guys like, yeah, I rise to the occasion. I'm like, what is your mindset in those situations? And he was like, well, I understand that it's a big moment. I understand the electricity in the crowd and the winner take all games and all the pressure and stress that comes in that. But I've gotten really good throughout my career at taking all of that and just funneling it into an elite, like sharp focus on what my job is for that game. So for him on the baseball side, it's executing one pitch at a time, being in the moment like we talked about. For a hockey player, it's being fully prepared and going and playing my game regardless of the situation, regardless of the noise, the pressure, all those certain things. Can I just go fully trust my ability, trust my preparation, and go play my game and see what happens?
Oh man, there's so many good nuggets in there. And I know we're running up on an hour here, but I do want to, because I think this is really relevant because you've kind of mentioned it multiple times on here in our conversation, but that's every player's different. Every player's different. And there's not one size fits all to, there's certain principles and certain things, but it's not a one size fits all of this toolbox that we can give every single kid about mental skills and then they're just going to have it. So like,
right.
how would you in what you do, and then potentially like, how would you talk to youth coaches or people that are working in the youth world that might not have your degrees, and experience like that to kind of help to understand that kids are different and that's okay. And how to work with the differences that the kids have, because the other thing too is that like Vex and I talk a lot about the power of self-reflection with players and how important it is to have a good self-reflection, a good self-assessment of where you are, kind of knowing who you are, knowing what makes you tick and going from that standpoint. And so, and again, in that sense, everybody's different too, but going back to it, like when you're working with kids, obviously it takes a lot of work to get into finding out so much of a player's personality and how they perform and what makes them tick and everything. But how would you encourage coaches and how do you work with people in this sense of like, it would be very easy to just give everybody the same tools, but the tools are different for everybody on what makes them special and unique to their abilities?
For sure. It's a great question. And I do work with a lot of coaches as well. And one of the things that we always talk about is most coaches used to play, right? So the players on your team that are similar to you, you're going to easily connect with them. You're going to know what they need. You're going to know how to coach them, how to get the most out of them. And that's going to be easy. But you have to understand that there are, multiple other personalities, viewpoints, different types of players that if you try to force feed your one way of viewing the game, viewing development, if you force feed that, you are not going to connect with a large group of your team. And so how do you get past that is you ask questions. I think it's very easy to look at a player, see the mistakes they're making on the ice, and you know the solution, you probably assume what they're thinking or why these things continue to happen. If you just tell them what to do without asking questions first, a lot of times you're going to miss what's at the heart of that player's situation, what's at the core of those mistakes. And so it's asking questions, asking, hey, what did you see there? What did, I know it was a bad pass. I know you gave it away in a bad situation that led to a goal, but what was your thought process there? Oh, well, I kind of panicked. All right. Why are you panicked? Well, I need to work on my puck handling a little bit more, or I need to work on my skating a little bit more. Like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's continue to do that. But, the more you can get to know your players and ask questions, you're going to understand them better, and you're going to teach them to get to their own solutions that work. Because the reality is, what worked for you as a player is not going to work for every other player out there. And that's the huge trap that a lot of coaches fall into, is trying to make their entire team like they were. And that's a losing proposition. It's going to drive yourself crazy, and you're probably going to drive half your team crazy as well.
Yeah, and pretty quick who the kids are that are kind of like your personality, and who the ones that are going to be a little bit tougher to crack and figure out who they are for sure. Well, thank you so much for your time here today. This was awesome, man. Like I take a lot of notes on the podcast that are like this. So I am coming out with so many different things that can help me to be a better coach and help me to work with different coaches as I'm going through my journey here. But yeah, I mean, congrats on all your success with everything that you do. Before we do let you go though, tell us and tell our listeners a little bit about where they could potentially find you if they want to reach out and contact you about anything that we talked about on the podcast. What's the best place to get you?
Yeah, appreciate that. Probably easiest way to get a hold of me is through Twitter, or X, I guess. Feel free to DM me. I respond to all of them. Happy to have conversations. If there are any players or coaches that interested in working with me, I'm all about it. We've got a couple open spots right now, but yeah, that's probably the best spot to find me. And I appreciate you having me on. I love talking about this. I think it's a very important part of sports, and it's starting to become a lot more accepted across the board, which has been cool to see. For sure. Like when we were growing up, there wasn't even a field for this. I feel like it was not something we ever thought about or heard of or anything like that, but it is something that could be such a value add for all these kids out here, especially in the world that we live in. So many kids are struggling with anxiety and depression based upon comparative culture, social media, the professionalization of sports, you name it. You've probably seen a lot of it. So yeah, I'm so happy that we got the chance to get you on here to talk about some of this stuff that will help so many of the athletes that listen to this, and so many of the coaches that affect the athletes that listen to this. And so appreciate your time. And if you have a couple more minutes, we're going to keep you for 10 questions, just a rapid fire 10 questions that will be housed in our Hockey Think Tank community. If you're not in that community yet, go to community.thehockeythinktank.com and sign up. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. But Dave Franco, appreciate your time today. Thanks for having me, fellas.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.